What's up, guys? How you doing? Jason Heine here. Wanted to take this opportunity and finally do a game room tour. So it's been a long time in the making. In the past about 3 or 4 years, I haven't been able to do this. So guys, we are finally here. So as you enter my house, it becomes a gaming, technology, entertainment kingdom, and that is what I want. So the living room has become my studio and part game room for the arcades there. Sitting right there, you can see KI, 1-2, MK, and Tetris. And then right above the studio is my upstairs, which has the game room. Big shout out to DJ there. Look at this guy. Made that for me, All Gen Gamers reference there. So moving on up the stairs, here we go. Bum-ba-da-bum-ba-da-bum. We get to the top, and I have some of my shirts hanging over the edge there. Got those at PAX Prime 2012. There's another shout out there to DJ. There's all of my badges. I've kept every one for every event I've gone to. And here we are into the game room. Got my Battlefield 3 poster there. And this is my game room, guys. The game room is a collection that dates back to when I was a young boy. I just never really got rid of anything. I kept everything, and I'm able to now display it. I've had some time where I wasn't able to put everything out, being in college and then living in some apartments, and it's difficult. A lot of us who have collections know that you can't always display it when you want to. So the time is now right, and I have taken this opportunity to set everything up. So here we are. My collection consists of lots of different things from all different generations of gaming. And you'll see that the collection is really unique to me, to where it's things that resemble me and my gaming, but there are also things that I like to play. Everything in the collection is functional, everything is available, everything's accessible. So I have all of that there. There's some merch there. So it's a combination of merchandise, promo stuff, posters, and games and consoles. That's kind of what we got there. Like, for instance, all those Nintendo 64 posters up there. Those are actually new old stock, and Nintendo made some backlit light up posters that those went in. So no game room is complete without some Red Bull action there, keeping our beers and our drinks cold there. That's a mini cooler. So here's kind of a panoramic shot of the consoles. Some of the boxes. These are all original boxes of the consoles that I got in my younger years. Get the power pad up there hanging out. I got my CRT TV there. What I wanted it to be was a place where you could hook in consoles and play them up there if you'd like. So everything's available. There's my VHS tapes from Nintendo 64 days, a sports Sega Dreamcast. Moving across here, got my Killer Instinct, F-Zero, Perfect Dark box. There's a factory sealed Killer Instinct, Super Nintendo, and Killer Cuts sealed. And I got a blue, a white, and a limited edition 25th anniversary Wii up there, sealed. Below that are some of the NES games that I have on the collection here. If I move some of these out of the way, you can see I have an original holder up there. That's we're getting a little squirrely here. Oh boy. Let me move these, just kind of making some room for you folks. So what we have in here are some of the, of course, Mega Man classics right there. Mega Man 1 through 6, got Turtles there. And of course, some of the Ninja Gaidens and Legend of Zeldas over there. Good stuff. Here's, moving down below, is PS1. Some of my long boxes there. And then, of course, all of the jewel case games. They're stacked on top of more jewel case games there. So there's quite a few in there, quite a few rows of games in there for PS1. I love that console. What a great console to collect for. And then moving right below, good old Sega Dreamcast. Love this console, one of my favorites. And I got the Dreamcast mouse and keyboard there for my shooters. Quite a few shooters actually on that console. It works really, really nice. I like it a lot. And then going down below, I got an FZ1 Panasonic 3DO there with some gems there. Super Street Fighter 2, Overdrivin'. Big shout out to you, Chad. Thanks, buddy, for hooking me up. Road Rash, The Need for Speed. Great games in there. You know, Space Ace, all sorts of good stuff. I got a promo Super Nintendo light-up sign there on the very top. And then moving right below that are some of my consoles that are out on display. Got the limited edition gold 64 with the Dr. Z64 on top. GameCube, Super Nintendo, Virtual Boy. It's a 360 there. A Super Famicom, Dreamcast, Super Nintendo Slim, and a top loader. All great consoles. Then this is kind of, I'm really proud of this area here. First of all, I love 64. I'm a big collector of the 64. I actually own all of the Nintendo 64s that were ever released in North America. And then all the games there, this is my coverproject.net. So all of my games are in cases, clamshell cases with official cover art that I printed out. So that's pretty neat to have. Also done that below here. Right below is the NES games on the left there. And then here is a majority of my Super Nintendo collection, all in clamshell cases with coverproject.net artwork. Very cool there. And there's the NES there a little bit showing you. Got a couple of dog bone controllers, a couple of mini pads there, Hori pads. Real nice stuff there. And then going on below that is some of my PS2 games there. What a great console to collect for. I love the PlayStation 2. And my collecting of the game shows. I just enjoy it. And you can see, of course, lots of shooters and racers, lots of action games. Gosh, it's a great collection, and I love going here and just grabbing a handful of games and just playing them. They're great. I love the PS2. So then talking about some more of the boxes there. There's some manuals that I have, some extra manuals I have. Right below there are some of my 360 games. Actually, I have a lot of 360 games down here in the studio because my Xbox and PS3 are both down here. I'll show those another time, but so the games are looking a little bare up there. But there's my Nintendo Wii collection. Great console, love it. One of my favorites, to be honest with you. That is my Super Nintendo Wii Japanese controller that plugs right in. And here is also my coverproject.net Game Boy Advance collection, where I put my Game Boy Advance games in those cases, which are DS cases, and then printed out the artwork. A couple of SPs over there. There's 2 rows of GameCube games in there. Great gems in there. And then moving down below, we have the Sega Saturn. And I have a whole box in the other room full of Sega Saturn sports games. I don't know how I got all those, but I don't even have them out. I have all the action games that I like. So there's a Saturn Netlink and keyboard adapter there that was used to play online dial-up games. So here we are at the TV. I've got all the adapters in there, power bricks, all that sort of thing. Darth Vader always there watching over everything, making sure everything's cool. But there's the TV, some of the boxes for some of the consoles. And moving along, I had these as a kid. I got those little Mario figures. Pretty cool. And wall trim I never opened. PS1, some Dreamcast stuff. There's some PAX Prime glasses I got. There's some Game Boy, original Game Boy games up in there. You know, there's so much here, and I'm going through it pretty quick, I know, but there's so much to the collection, and I'm just going to sit here and ramble about it as we go through. There's my Billy Ocean, thanks. Big shout to Metal Jesus hooking me up with that. Another All Gen Gamers reference. There's my Virtual Boy collection. There's all my boxed Virtual Boy, some factory sealed, even games there. Of course, got to have some Nerf guns up in that place. It's my Virtual Boy carrying case. I ate breakfast many mornings on that TV tray there. What up, girl? What up, girl? Battlefield 3 hat and mouse pad. Excellent stuff there. The candy machine. Little RC car. Got some airsoft guns in the house. All right, guys. So here we are. This is some of my, pretty much a big majority of it here. This is my PC collection. And it spans all the way across from DOS all the way up into modern gaming. Well, of course, got some PS1 hanging out down there with a little Namco gun down there. But these are some of the gems that I've got on PC. Wing Commander, Blackthorn, Doom Collector. There's Shogo right there. There's a boxed Wing Commander 3. Got Road Rash, Factory Seal. There's my original Duke 3D. MK2, floppy disk. Gosh, all sorts of great stuff here. Kind of all intermixed. But there's 2600, 64 Genesis games. There's my boxed Game Boy Advance games. There's some gems up there. Dark Forces 2, Carmageddon. There's some loose NES games I got there hanging out. Micro Machines, what? Factory sealed Pole Position, pretty neat. Some Initial D right there. Unreal Tournament Game of the Year edition. You know, it's a good mix between jewel cased and boxed, big box games right there. And this is something I'm really proud of. So they released 3 different boxes for Half-Life 2 when it came out. One with Gordon Freeman, one with Alex, and one with the G-Man. And some stores had them, some didn't, and it just depended on where you bought them. But I was able to get all 3, so I have that complete. And I'm actually really proud of that. Half-Life 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. Some Command & Conquer, you kind of can see Sega Smash Pack 2. These are all PC games, guys. Some of these are really rare to find. There's Daytona. Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. Of course, all my flat outs right there. Can't go wrong with that. There's Duke. There's Lord of the Rings Upside Down. The Guy game for Xbox and my excellent X Arcade joystick that I use for all of my MAME and emulator type games on the computer. So there's some real cool stuff there. And then off to the right of that is a section of games where these are games I've recently kind of picked up and I want to talk about in some upcoming videos that I haven't gotten to yet. So it's kind of the catch-all for some of the games over there. The key to having a very successful game room is knowing where everything's at and making sure you can get to everything and that it's accessible. It's very important. So here I have these tubs that I picked up at Walmart. They're great. They have tops. I took all the tops off. But what I have here is different bins to hold different things. Some was kind of like the junk drawer type of a thing. This bin has all my controllers and adapters, memory cards. There's a Wavebird adapters there, controller extension cables, wireless controllers, all that sort of thing. And then once I move this down, you see below it are also some of the gold 64 controllers, wireless controllers, all that. I have them all in one spot so that I know where everything's at. If I need it, I can go right to it. And that's what makes a game room great. Instead of having clutter everywhere, you know right where everything's at. I had one dedicated just to Dreamcast there, and then this one is kind of a adapter plug and play case there. So there's some of the Game Boys, original Game Boys, a few games hanging out in there. This is my Super Nintendo game holder. Got a Super Game Boy and a Game Genie in there. Good stuff. Some Nintendo Powers down here. Rest in peace, Nintendo Power. This is the last year right there, all 2012. I'm really proud of this. Factory sealed Killer Instinct t-shirt from E3. Back when it was released. You ever seen one of these? It's a keyboard adapter for Nintendo 64. Pretty cool. Some box Super Nintendo games in there. And of course, good old Kirby hanging out. There's my Bomberman Joy-Card 64 controller, factory sealed Game Boy Micro, split fish adapter, mouse and keyboard adapter for the PS2 for some shooters. So guys, I really hope you've enjoyed the HD room tour. I've been wanting to do it a really long time and I'm finally able to do it. I'm very happy and thankful for all your support and all your encouragement and all your positivity towards me and the channel. So thanks for being a subscriber. Thanks for being a part of the family. And yeah, here's another shot here's a room here that I've got full of other things I just can't put out. Not enough room. I have a sickness. That's okay though. So thanks again, you guys. You guys are awesome. Hope you've enjoyed it. We will see you later.